Hello, mere pyare students. How are you all? I know. Exams are coming and the tension is building up. But don't you worry at all. In this session, we're going to make this chapter on Indian sociologists super simple, super clear, and super easy to remember. So let's just dive right in. So here's the big puzzle we need to solve today. Sociology as a subject, it started in the West, right? To study their modern societies. But our Indian society, it's completely different. So the big question is, how did our first scholars, our brilliant thinkers, take this Western subject and use it to study our own totally unique country? That's the quest for today. First up, let's talk about the Trailblazers. These guys were like sociologists by accident. Can you believe it? This was way before sociology was even a proper subject in Indian universities. They weren't driven by degrees, but by a real curiosity about the people and the world around them. Just look at these two pioneers. On one hand, you have Ananta Krishna Iyer. He started as a simple clerk, and then, in his free time, on his weekends, he did massive studies of communities, all as a volunteer. Then there's Sarat Chandra Roy, a lawyer who started studying tribal culture just so he could be a better lawyer for his tribal clients. They had no formal training, just pure passion and so much hard work. Okay, so Iyer and Roy kind of set the stage, they opened the door. But now, let's meet the four main heroes of our story, the four champions who really built the foundation of sociology in India. Understanding them is key to acing your exams. Our first champion is G.S. Ghurye. I want you to think of him as the master architect. Why? Because he literally built the first proper, full-fledged Department of Sociology at Bombay University. He laid the foundation for everything, and I mean everything, that came after. And what a career he had! He was the head of the department for 35 long years and even started the Indian Sociological Society. But get this is the amazing part. He wrote 17 books after he retired. 17! That just shows you how dedicated he was to his work. What a legend. Okay, everybody focus, pens out, highlighters ready. This next part is super, super important. It's a very common exam question. If you can just remember the points on the next slide, you're guaranteed to get full marks for this question. Ready? Let's do this. So Ghurye gave us a simple 6-point checklist for caste. Number 1, segmental division. Society is broken into compartments you're born into. 2, hierarchy. It's like a ladder, with some castes on top and others below. 3, restrictions on eating and socializing. 4, different rights and duties for different castes. 5, your job is often decided by your birth. And number 6, strict rules about marrying only within your own caste. See? Just remember these 6 features. It's that simple. Ghurye was also part of a huge debate about tribal communities. The British administrators had this protectionist idea. They said, oh, tribes are separate, let's keep them isolated like museum pieces. But Ghurye, being a nationalist, totally disagreed. He said, no way. He argued they were part of the bigger Indian society. He called them backward Hindus, and they needed to be integrated and developed with the rest of the nation. Let's move on to our second champion, D.P. Mukerji. If Ghurye was the architect, D.P. was the traditionalist. His main idea was simple. To understand India, you must first understand its deep traditions. You have to go to the roots. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? He believed you couldn't just read some Western books and understand India. To really get it, you had to be an Indian first. You had to be soaked in its culture, its languages, its customs. You had to feel it from the inside. So what did he mean by tradition? He called it a living tradition. It sounds a bit complicated, but trust me, it's not. Think of your dadi's or nani's laddu recipe. The recipe is very old, right? That's the past. But maybe this Diwali you add some chocolate chips to it. That's the present. The recipe is still connected to the past, but it's also changing. That's a living tradition. See? Old, yet new. DP also had a really unique idea about how Indian society changes. He said, unlike in the West, where change often comes from conflict, in India, it comes from Anubhava, which means a collective experience, and Prema, which is love or empathy. Just think about the Bhakti movement. It wasn't a war, it was a huge spiritual movement that changed society from the heart. Okay, complete change of pace now. Let's meet our third champion, A.R. Desai. We'll call him the Critic. Desai was a Marxist his whole life, and his job, as he saw it, was to ask the tough questions and challenge everything, especially the government and its big claims. Desai was very interested in this idea of a welfare state. So what's that? Well, it's a state that claims it works for the good of its people. It actively helps people, it's democratic, and it has a mix of government and private companies. On the surface, it sounds absolutely perfect, doesn't it?
But Desai, being the ultimate critic, didn't just accept this. He said, hold on a second. This sounds really good, but is it actually true? Or is this welfare state just a myth, a nice story they tell us? So he decided to put it to the test. So he created this 5-point reality check. He asked, does the welfare state actually end poverty for everybody? Does it really reduce the gap between the rich and poor? Does it put people's needs before company profits? And, well, after checking everything, his conclusion was that most states failed this test. That's why he argued that the welfare state was more of a myth than a reality. And finally, our fourth superstar, M.N. Srinivas. If Desai was the critic, Srinivas was the great explorer. He's probably the most famous Indian sociologist of his time, and his mission was to explore the real heart of India, its villages.
Seriously, forget all these Instagram influencers and YouTube vloggers. N.N. Srinivas was the original lifestyle vlogger of the Indian village. He didn't just visit for a day. He actually lived in villages for months and years, observing everything, talking to everyone, and writing down every little detail. He gave us a real inside look. Now, his focus on the village was a big deal. Another famous sociologist, Louis Dumont, said that villages are just places, that caste is the only thing that really matters. But Srinivas fought back. He said, no, the village is a real community with its own strong identity and unity. He proved that to understand rural India, you have to understand the village itself.
So why was his work so important? Well, first, it showed everyone the power of fieldwork, of actually living with the people you are studying. And second, it gave our new Indian government a real on-the-ground picture of rural society. This made sociology a super useful and practical subject for building our new nation.
All right, let's do a super fast recap. This table has everything you need. So Ghurye was the architect who defined caste. D.P. Mukerji was the traditionalist who talked about living traditions. A.R. Desai was the critic who questioned the state. And M.N. Srinivas was the explorer who took us into the village. Go ahead, take a screenshot right now. It's perfect for your last-minute revision. These brilliant sociologists helped us understand the India of their time. So my final question is for you. What are the big questions sociologists should be asking about our society today? What about the impact of social media, or online education, or the changing family? Think about it. The next great Indian sociologist could be one of you watching right now. All the very best for your exams. You are going to do great.